Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. In these next few videos, I'm gonna go over baits or showcase some baits that I feel like are baits you're gonna wanna have for this February timeframe, whether you're walking the bank at your favorite water hole or you're launching the boat and heading out for a day on the lake. For this February timeframe, where you're talking about typically still closer to winter than you are to spring, not quite pre-spawn. I went out yesterday and we had 50-degree water temperatures. I think the warmest I found was 52. So for the most part, still colder, still more closer to the wintertime water temperatures, not quite the pre-spawn type temps where I feel like the pre-spawn really starts to get kicked into gear is in that mid 50s, 55, 57, stuff like that. And obviously the weather is going to play a big factor in what the water temperature is going to hover in and around, whether you get cold rains or a hard northern that might blow through and cool off the water. But regardless of those things, I'm going to give you a bait that I feel like is just fantastic this time of year. It's a bait that it's probably my favorite bait. And if you've watched any of my videos, you're probably like, well, I know what this is. It's a great bait, and the reason I'm talking about it is because I think you need to have it in your hand and putting it through the paces this time of year. Before I get right into it, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. So the bait that I like for this time of year, it's a bait that I like year round, but specifically in this winter, moving into the pre-spawn type period, that's a jig. I gotta have a jig tied on one of my rods and on the front of my boat, just because it's just a phenomenal way to catch them, because more times than not, they're not aggressive and you can fish it low and slow, down on the bottom, put it in their face. Those fish, they just can't seem to resist the jig. There's a couple of colors going into different things on the how, when, why, where, and why, and even I'll go into my rod setup. One of the things that I want to talk about is color. I really feel like you really only need two colors. You either need a black and blue or a green pumpkin. Those are really the colors that I feel like you're gonna need. More the black and blue when the water's more stained, the green pumpkin when you're dealing with clearer water situations, higher highland impoundments, canyon style reservoirs, lowland impoundments, stuff with more tannic or even tea colored water, or just stuff with a stain, that black and blue really is good. So keeping it simple, the black and blue and the green pumpkin. And there's a couple of different jigs that you can use, but the one that I've kind of had tied on and really have grown fond of as of recently is the Buckeye ball and out jig. They actually have two different versions. They have one that's a full skirt, and then one that is this, what we call a kind of a spider profile. Some guys call that, they refer to that as an Elvis cut, because it has more of a collar back around the, the neck there. Depending upon the clarity that you're faced with, I feel like you're gonna probably want that spider cut, more finesse style presentation, and a thinned out approach or profile for your jig, for more of those clear water situations, high pressure situations, and even bright sunny bluebird days. And then when you're faced with more maybe overcast or maybe a little bit of wind, even more stain in your water, then you're gonna want that full skirt. That full skirt's gonna be probably what you want, because it's gonna present more of a presence in the water and draw fish to the bait. So just keep an open mind. As far as trailers for the back of my jig, I like something that doesn't have a whole lot of action. And I've caught a lot of fish on a chunk style trailer over the years. And one that I've been playing with recently is that Yamamoto flapping hog, because it really has a similar, those flapping appendages are very similar. And what I think makes that so good is that when the water's cold, you don't want something that's throwing a lot of action. You want something that's replicating the fact that, everything down there is cold-blooded. And so you want something that's gonna have more of a subdued action to it, more of a finesse style presentation, slower and lower, looks like it's cold. And those fish, I feel like that looks more natural and it's gonna get you a few more bites. So when I'm dealing with more maybe overcast or more of a stain to the water, that Buckeye Ballin' Out jigs. This is the Ballin' Out Jig 2 that has that full skirt, and I'm just gonna thread that flapping hog on the back, or if you have a chunk, you can put a chunk on the back of it. Where I'm gonna fish the jig, I'm gonna fish the jig in and around hard targets, wood, rock, standing timber, dock pilings, metal docks, different things like that. That hard cover, the type of topography that I'm looking for is something that has a bit of descent or verticalness to its nature. I don't want those flats, and I don't want to get way up on a flat. I want to have something where deep water access is nearby, and so maybe a creek channel swing, bluffy type banks, 45 degrees, but I'm going to want those banks that offer some access to deep water. So when the water temperature is right and the conditions are right, it's sunny, it's warmer, fish can elevate and move just a short distance to be shallow, and vice versa. Things don't work out and the conditions go south, they can drop down in water elevation and move deeper. And those types of areas generally have some bait fish activity in and around them too. So hard cover, access to deep water, those are the things that I'm looking for. I'm gonna probably wanna be closer to the main lake for the most part, though you can get some fish activity in the backs of creeks where there is warmer water. One of the reasons I like that Ballin' Out jig is because it's very versatile. This is a jig that I feel like would work under a lot of different circumstances and a lot of different conditions, a lot of different cover types. It's got a beefy enough hook in there. You've got 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 ounce sizes. So you're ready to go. I believe they even have a 3/4 ounce size in this jig. I would say that I would probably lean between 3/8 and 1/2 ounce sizes for the wintertime fishing. 3/8 is great for fishing a jig this time of year because as that slower fall, sometimes fish are suspended in the water column, and as it's falling slowly, a suspended bass would be more apt to go after a slow falling bait instead of a faster one. One of the other things that I like about this jig is, though it is kind of a finesse style, it has beefy enough hook to get the job done. If you wanted to upsize your line to 20-pound test, this hook is gonna handle that just fine. Generally, I'm fishing with either 14 or 16-pound test Gamma Edge fluorocarbon. I feel like that is gonna get the job done in most situations. Though if I was fishing super clear water and downsizing to maybe 1/4 ounce, I would definitely step down to maybe 12-pound test Gamma Edge fluorocarbon. As far as my outfit goes, I'm either gonna fish a 7-foot to maybe a 7'4" heavy action casting rods. Some of the medium heavies will do fine with this style of jig or for jig fishing. I'm gonna go with a 7:5-to-1 gear ratio reel. And again, Gamma Edge fluorocarbon ranging from 12 to 16-pound test. Probably 14 would be the one that I would probably settle in most of the time, unless I was fishing for bigger fish or in heavier cover. Then I would go with 16, and I would go with 12 if I was in clearer water where you have a fishery that offers all 3 different species, and the overall size of the fish is on the smaller size, where like maybe a 4-pounder is a big one. How I like to fish a jig, I'm gonna throw it out there, and as soon as it hits the water, I'm gonna actually disengage my spool and just kind of feed out line like that, so it has that vertical fall down to the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, you'll kind of see your line slack. It'll lay on the top of the water. I'm gonna go ahead and engage my reel right down to it. You'll feel it get nice and taut, and then I'm just gonna drag it. I'm either gonna drag it or hop it, depending upon the day. Some days they want it hopped, some days they want it druggle on the bottom. One of the things that dragging a jiggle on the bottom will do is, as it connects with the cover down there or bottom substrate, whether it's rock or gravel or wood or laydowns or stumps or the root systems or root wads of stumps, or maybe it comes off a creek channel end or a bluff. All those things are going to impart action into the jig, and dragging it kind of allows you to kind of make contact with cover, which I feel like on a lot of instances when fish are down on the bottom, that's the presentation they like. Sometimes they're kind of elevated, maybe a few inches up off the bottom. A hop is great because then it falls vertically again, and a lot of times that vertical descent is what triggers those strikes. One of the things you're going to want to pay attention to is if you're dragging it along and all of a sudden your line gets tight, that means it's falling. So you want to either disengage your line and let it drop, or drop your rod tip toward the bait and let it fall on a vertical slack line. That works really well. Otherwise, on those transition type banks or ones with more of a slope, that bait's gonna fall away from the bottom and toward you, away from the fish. You don't want that. You want it in contact with the cover and or bottom substrate at all times. So the jig, it's great in a lot of different conditions, and day in, day out, it's gonna put fish in the boat for this cold water period moving towards the spring. That's it for now, guys. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel, and until next time, good fishing.